The text from my sister Jessica arrived at 9 p.m. Family meeting tomorrow at your place. 10 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. Not our place. Not the house. Your place. Like it was a burden. I was in my home office reviewing code for a client project worth $45,000. At 28, I'd built a lucrative career as a software consultant for Fortune 500 companies. My clients included major banks and tech giants. None of my family knew this. They thought I did computer stuff for some local companies. The house around me was a beautiful 4-bedroom craftsman. Market value, $890,000. My parents had no idea. I texted back, "What's this about?" "Just be there. It's important family business." The next morning, 3 cars pulled into my driveway at 9:45 a.m. My parents' SUV, Jessica's sedan, and a U-Haul truck. A U-Haul truck. Mom and Dad walked in without knocking. Jessica followed with a tablet. Behind them came Aunt Karen, Uncle Steve, Jessica's husband Brandon, and my grandmother. "Sit down, Maya," Dad said with his authoritative tone. "We need to talk about the living situation." I remained standing. "What living situation?" Mom glanced at Jessica, who stepped forward. "Maya, you're 28 and single. This house is too big for one person." "Dad's retiring next month," Jessica continued. "They need to downsize. This house, the family home, makes the most sense." "The family home?" I repeated. "Yes," Dad interjected. "We bought this house, Maya. We've been letting you stay here, but it's time we moved back in. You can take the guest room." "The guest room? In my house?" "We already gave notice on our apartment," Mom added. "The truck is here. We're moving in today." "You gave notice," I said slowly. "We've been generous letting you live here rent-free," Dad said. "We need this space now. You barely use these rooms anyway." Jessica pulled up her tablet. "I made a schedule. Mom and Dad get the master bedroom. Brandon and I will take the second bedroom for weekend visits." "Weekend visits?" I asked. "It's the family house. We share." Jessica looked at me like I was dense. "That's what family does." Aunt Karen nodded. "Your parents sacrificed everything to buy this house. The least you can do is share it." My grandmother added, "Children take care of their parents. We didn't question it in my day." I looked at their entitled faces, already planning furniture placement. "Just to be clear," I said carefully, "you believe Mom and Dad own this house?" "Of course they do," Jessica snapped. "They bought it 20 years ago. Just because you've been living here doesn't make it yours." "And you gave notice on your apartment," I repeated. "You have nowhere else to go." "That's why we're moving in today," Mom said, gesturing toward the U-Haul. "Brandon and Steve will start bringing boxes in. Clear out the master bedroom." I walked to my office and picked up my phone. "What are you doing?" Dad demanded. "Calling my lawyer," I said, dialing. Jessica laughed. "Your lawyer?" "Maya, don't be dramatic. This isn't legal. This is family." "Robert Chin speaking." "Robert, it's Maya Patel. I need that property documentation package at my house." "No." "Family meeting in progress." 20 minutes, Robert said. I hung up. "This is ridiculous," Dad said. "We don't need lawyers. We're your parents. We're moving in." End of discussion. "Then you won't mind waiting 20 minutes, I said pleasantly. "He's bringing documents you'll find interesting." Mom's face flushed. "Maya, your attitude is extremely disrespectful." "Is it?" I asked. Jessica kept pulling up renovation ideas. "I'm thinking we knock out this wall. Open concept is huge right now." "That's load-bearing," I said. "We'll hire contractors," she replied dismissively. "Brandon and I want to flip houses. This will be practice." Brandon was measuring windows. Uncle Steve was in the garage assessing storage. My family was planning renovations on my house. At 10:42 a.m. Robert Chin arrived. Partner at the city's most prestigious law firm, specializing in property law. His fees started at $600 per hour. He entered carrying a leather portfolio. "Good morning," Robert said professionally. "I'm Robert Chin, Ms. Patel's attorney. I understand there's confusion about property ownership." "No confusion," Dad said dismissively. "This is our house. My daughter is being difficult." "I see." Robert opened his portfolio. You have documentation proving ownership? Deed. Mortgage papers. We don't need papers, Mom said. We bought this house 20 years ago. Robert looked at me. I nodded. Hold up. Actually, Robert said, pulling out documents, I have extensive documentation that tells a different story. He spread papers across my dining table. My family crowded around. This is the property deed for this address. Current owner, Maya Patel. Purchased outright in cash 4 years ago for $520,000. Silence. Jessica grabbed the document. That's impossible. Maya doesn't have that kind of money. Wire transfer receipts, Robert continued, laying out more papers. Full payment from Ms. Patel's business account. No mortgage. No co-signers. Sole owner. Dad's face went pale. But this was our house. You rented here, Robert corrected. The previous owner was a corporate entity using it as a rental. When they sold, Ms. Patel purchased it. She allowed you to continue living here rent-free for 2 years before you moved to your apartment. Wait, Jessica said slowly. Maya has owned this house for 4 years? Correct. She's been sole owner and paid all property taxes, insurance and maintenance. Mom sat heavily. You bought our house. I bought a house I could afford. One I loved. The house you rented and chose to leave. But you never told us, Aunt Karen accused. You never asked, I interrupted. You assumed. Like you assumed I couldn't afford it. Like you assumed I'd have no problem with you moving back in. Robert pulled out more documents. Property tax records for 4 years. All paid by Ms. Patel. Receipts for new roof, updated electrical, kitchen renovation, HVAC replacement. Total investment, $160,000, all paid by Ms. Patel. The kitchen, Mom whispered. You said the landlord did that. I am the landlord, I said. I'm the owner. I renovated my house. Jessica scrolled frantically on her phone. Property records, it's true. Maya Patel, sole owner. Where would you get that kind of money? Dad asked weakly. I'm a software consultant. I build custom systems for Fortune 500 companies. My average project fee is $50,000. I complete about 12 projects yearly. I've been doing this since I was 22. But you said you worked with computers, Grandmother said, confused. I do. Very expensive computer systems for very wealthy clients. You never told us, Mom said, hurt. You never asked. Every family dinner was about Jessica's promotion or car or campaigns. When I mentioned my work, Dad would say, that's nice, and change the subject. Jessica's face reddened. So you've been secretly rich? That's deceptive. I've been quietly successful. There's a difference. I didn't hide it. You never bothered to look. Robert interjected. Ms. Patel also documented financial support to family members. He pulled out papers. $15,000 loan to Jessica for a car, never repaid. $8,000 loan to your parents for property taxes, never repaid. $5,000 to your uncle for medical bills, never repaid. Uncle Steve looked away. You told us those were gifts, Jessica said. You told yourselves they were gifts. I called them loans. You chose not to hear that. Brandon spoke up. So legally they have no claim to this property? None whatsoever, Robert confirmed. They're currently guests in Ms. Patel's home. Guests who announced they were moving in without the owner's consent. But we gave notice on our apartment, Mom panicked. We have nowhere to go. That was your choice, I said steadily. You made that decision without consulting me, the actual owner. We're family. Dad shouted. You can't throw us out. You were planning to demote me to the guest room in my own house. Jessica was planning renovations. You brought a moving truck. None of you asked. Robert pulled out a final document. This is a formal notice to vacate, effective immediately. Ms. Patel is within her legal rights to require all non-residents to leave today. You're evicting us? Aunt Karen gasped. Your own parents? They evicted themselves when they gave notice without confirming they had anywhere to go. Revelation. Jessica's phone rang. She went pale. It's my landlord. Someone called asking about our weekend visits here. He wants to know if we're subletting. That would be my office, Robert said. We're conducting due diligence on matters related to this property. Brandon grabbed Jessica's arm. We need to go. Now. But my parents didn't move. Mom was crying. Dad stared at the property deed. 28 years, Dad said quietly. We raised you for 28 years. And you'd throw us out. You raised me for 18 years. Then you spent 10 telling me I wasn't as successful as Jessica. That my career wasn't impressive. That I should be grateful for family support. We never said that, Mom protested. You said it at every dinner. Every holiday. Every time Jessica got promoted and you'd turn to me and say, maybe someday you'll have a career like your sisters. Jessica flinched. I have a career. I have a house. I have financial security. I have all this because I worked quietly while you weren't paying attention. And the first time you did pay attention it was to take it away. We weren't taking it, Dad said weakly. You assumed it was yours. That's worse. Robert checked his watch. Miss Patel, I have the eviction notice. Do you want to proceed? I looked at my family. My mother's tears. My father's shock. Jessica's anger. Yes, I said. Everyone who doesn't live here needs to leave. Now. Maya, Mom started. Mrs. Patel, Robert interrupted, you need to vacate. If you refuse, I'll call the police. It got them moving. Slowly, reluctantly, my family shuffled toward the door. Jessica stopped in front of me. You've changed. The old Maya would never do this. The old Maya didn't own an $890,000 house. Maybe you never really knew Maya at all. She left without another word. My parents were last. Dad paused at the door. Where are we supposed to go? You have friends. Other family. The same options I would have had if you'd succeeded in taking my guest room. We're your parents, Mom said. Then you should have treated me like your daughter. Not like a placeholder in a house you assumed was yours. They left. The U-Haul followed them down the driveway. Resolution. Robert stayed another hour walking me through additional legal protections. Restraining orders if they tried to return. Documentation for unpaid loans. A formal cease and desist regarding any property claims. You handled that well, he said. Most people cave when family applies pressure. Most people didn't spend 10 years being treated as invisible. After he left, I walked through my house. Every room I'd renovated. Every piece of furniture I'd selected. Every bill I'd paid. Over the next week I learned what happened. My parents had to beg Jessica to let them move in temporarily. Jessica's landlord raised questions about occupancy limits. They were now sleeping in a guest room barely bigger than a closet. The same treatment they'd tried to give me. Dad had to postpone retirement. They needed money for a security deposit but had spent their savings on new furniture for their house. Jessica's marriage was strained. Brandon blamed her for not verifying ownership before getting involved. Aunt Karen and Uncle Steve stopped speaking to my parents, angry they'd been dragged into an embarrassing legal situation. My grandmother called to apologize. You have your grandfather's quiet strength. I should have said that more often. I didn't respond to my parents' texts. I didn't answer Jessica's calls. I did send formal invoices for the unpaid loans. $28,000 total with interest. Jessica called after receiving hers. You can't be serious. Talk to Robert, I said and hung up. 3 months later, my parents found an affordable apartment 45 minutes outside the city. Dad had to unretire and take a part-time job. Mom was working retail. Jessica sent one final text. I hope you're happy living in that big house all alone. I looked around my living room. My books. My art. My peace. I texted back, I am. Thanks for asking. Then I blocked her number. The house appreciated another $120,000 that year. I renovated the basement into a home theater. I hosted dinners for actual friends. People who celebrated my success instead of trying to claim it. Sometimes I walked through the rooms and remembered my father's face when he saw the property deed. The disbelief. He'd said I'd changed. He was wrong. I'd always been exactly this capable. He just finally noticed. And by then it was far too late. The mortgage papers didn't lie. The property deed didn't lie. The legal documentation didn't lie. Their assumptions did. And those assumptions cost them everything.